Welcome to another session on the whiteboard. Today I want to show you that energy and no time is the most precious resource when it comes to high performance. Everything that you do in life has an energy consequence. Human beings, we are a four-cylinder machine. Every energy source is intertwined. And when I talk about that, I will break a human body into four different energy sources. The first one here is physical. The second one here is emotional. The third one is mental. And the last one here is spiritual. All these are different vehicle cylinders that are intertwined. They are interconnected. Your physical, emotional, mental, and spirituality, they have a big impact on how aligned you are in life. To be fully engaged, energy has to constantly be expended and it has to constantly be renewed. Let us look at the physical energy. The human body is subjected to principles. And when I talk about principles, I'm talking about a principle is something, it's a law that if you try to break it, it breaks you instead. So a principle works for you if you submit to it. And there are basic principles that the human body is subjected to if you want it to function. What are the basic principles? Number one here is nutrition or diet. The human body has to eat for him to generate energy. Number two is hydration. You have to drink water. Number three is air. How you breathe. Most of us don't know how to breathe at all. We hyperventilate. Number four is rest. Majority of people don't sleep enough. And of course, number five here, it's shelter. And I'll go as far as and say to a certain point now, internet has become one of those things. Without internet, chances are that I won't be talking to you and you won't be listening to me. These are principles. This has got nothing to do with age. It's got nothing to do with color. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with creed. It's got nothing to do with where you come from. If you do not submit to these principles, then automatically your body is going to suffer. And if your body suffers, now when we're talking about energy, majority of us think of energy when we think of that construction worker. The energy coursing through that construction worker's body is what we think of and relate to energy. The second part is when you see your favorite athlete, when you see the power coming through their bodies while they accomplish unbelievable world feats. That is energy. And that can only be generated by eating specific foods, by drinking water constantly, by breathing, by resting, and of course, protecting ourselves from the elements. When we talk about water, majority of people can only think of air when one is suffering from things like eczema, people that smoke, that you have problems with your lungs, or when you get you choking because a piece of meat is stuck in your throat. That's the only time most of us ever associate air or a passageway or oxygen with life. How many days can you go without food? This is open to discussion, but we've had people that go between 30 and 40 days. But let's say for this video's argument's sake, I'll say 30 days. You're not going to be a very happy person, but you can live that long. But you're not going to be strong, you're not going to be energetic, you'll just be, you're just surviving, you're just there, you're just a thing. It can take you up to 30 days. How many days can you go without water? Mostly between 3 and 4 days. Straight away, that one will affect you. You start to see things start to happen to you. You start to imagine things. How long can you go without oxygen? This is 3 hours. In fact, if you go easy 5-10 minutes with oxygen being cut off, chances are parts of your brain are starting to die. Then if you look at this, most of us are so conscious about what we eat, we more focus on nutrition, but we don't think of the water we drink, because water is one of those things that will always permeate between your cells, your bloodstream and your cells, in and out, without any restrictions. So the quality of water that you drink has a big outcome on how you feel and how you look. And of course, most people just don't know how to breathe. And how can you tell that? Anytime you find you walking with your shoulders all pulled up, it means you're hyperventilating. And if you want to know how your breathing affects your state of mind, how your breathing affects your physical state, when you're annoyed, when you're fearful, when you feel like you're under stress, how do you breathe? We start to hyperventilate. And that shows you, and majority of people don't breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. We do not feel it. We don't create that vacuum in our stomach when we're breathing in. We don't feel the rib cage at all. So this becomes the physical principles, the physical laws that we have to submit to. And if we submit to that, it gives us the raw force here, the raw energy. This brings us to the second energy source here, which is emotional. Your emotional state or your emotional energy is your ability for you to go from good to bad or from low to high in a very short space of time. Your physical energy has a lot of relationship with your emotional energy. Because if you're physically tired, then emotionally you're always in a state of emergency. You're always in a state of reacting. And if you are in an emergency state, if you're constantly reacting to events and constantly reacting to life, then automatically here, the emotional state that you're going to be in is going to be fearful. The emotional state is going to be anxiety. The emotional state here, in most cases, becomes one of those where you're constantly fighting your environment and fighting people around you. Most people, to try and cope with the emotional state here, you'll find majority of us end up watching television. The best way to always focus on renewing your emotional energy is how often do you do activities just for the simple fact that they make you feel better. Unfortunately, we live in a productivity age where unless whatever you're doing is taking you closer to your goals, then most of us do not give it any time at all. But how often do you just go for a walk for the sake of how it makes you feel good? How often do you sit with your dog just for the sake of how it makes you feel good? How often do you just take time to cook a meal because of how it makes you feel good? How often do you take time to talk to a colleague just for the simple reason that it makes you feel good? That's emotional connection. But majority of us, we either use social media. It's better and easier for us to keep on keeping ourselves busy and avoiding thinking what we need to think, or watching television. Television is simply, there's no difference between television and eating junk food, because there's no nutrition in it. And in most cases, research shows most people that watch television in their low time, most people that use television as a sense of emotional renewal, are always more fearful and more anxious. So this one here, you need to be emotionally connected to activities that just give you pleasure. And that is always people, that is always animals, and doing something out in nature. The third one here is mental. If you're physically tired because you don't eat right, you don't drink enough water, you don't breathe well, and you don't rest, automatically you become reactive. You live in an emergency state emotionally, and that automatically affects your mental energy. For you to be productive, you need to have the ability to focus. You need to have the ability to concentrate. You need to have the ability to come from broader subject to narrow subjects. You need to have the ability of having very clear mindset that is not affected by fog. If you're physically tired, if you're emotionally distraught, then automatically you mentally destabilized. It will affect every single thing that you do. As much as our brains, when we're talking about mind here, we're talking about your brain. And when I'm talking about your brain, I'm talking about an organ. Your brain is an organ of your body. Your brain is like your heart. Your brain is like your liver. Your brain is like your kidneys, which means that what gets fed into your physical being becomes what your brain is made of. So if you are eating junk here, if you're not exercising enough, which means that there is less blood flow in your brain, in your neurons, then automatically you cannot be at your sharpest. You cannot have the ability to be able to think right. You cannot have the ability to focus and come out with the better solutions when it comes to complex equations, for you to become a better person and a better professional. Your brain is only 2% of your total body weight, but it consumes 25% of your calories, which means if I had to break it down into a very single digit here, it means that your brain uses 25% of your oxygen intake. You can see how now this as a base is affecting every other energy source in your body, and it affects the total, it has a total effect on the quality of life that you have and how engaged you are as a human being. The last energy sense here is spirituality. And you can always tell how spiritual you are, or how spiritually invested, or how spiritually strong you are the times you go through a very tough time in your life. Because that is the only time where spiritual energy comes in and it becomes the anchor. It becomes the life force that we use for us to overcome whatever we're going through in life. The key muscle that we need for spirituality here, in most cases here, one, we need to have character. We need to define, we need to have a set of rules. We need to have a constitutions. What laws, what principles runs your life? What are you known for? What are your non-negotiables? Because unless you have that, in most cases, life is going to throw you around, and life will constantly try and test your principles. Life will try and test your character. Life will constantly try and test and see who you are. So character and purpose become very big drivers for your spirituality. And I'm not talking of spirituality from a religious point of view. I'm talking spirituality from a personal anchoring point of view. So the point of everything that we do and the point of understanding the importance of energy, anytime I talk to customers and anytime we do most of our corporate talks to corporate executives, the corporate athletes or gym members, one of the mottos that we focus on at Dream Body Fitness here is you need to be physically energized. You need to be emotionally connected. You need to be mentally focused. And you need to be spiritually aligned to a cause that is bigger than self. You need to be spiritually aligned to a cause that is bigger than self. So to sum this up and to show you how important that energy is the main source for your high performance, you need to be physically energized, which comes from, of course, exercise, nutrition, proper rest, and proper breathing. You need to be emotionally connected to others and to things around you. And when we're talking about connectivity, we're talking about being connected to the people around you, relationships, good quality relationships, being connected to yourself, being connected to nature. You need to be mentally focused. You need to make sure that your environment is distraction free, and then you need to be spiritually aligned to a cause bigger than self. If you're doing things for yourself, it's very hard to get motivation when you're down. But if you're doing things because you want to be a better father, if you're doing things because you want to be a better husband, a better wife, you want to be a better friend, you want to be there longer for your kids, you want to have more energy so that you're a better mother, a better father, it changes the whole concept on why we realize that energy is the foundation for our happiness. Without energy, you cannot be happy. And you'll find the most common reason why majority of people tell you that they do not have enough time to exercise. They say, I'm physically exhausted at the end of the day. So it is energy that is bringing all the big problems in your life. If we can solve energy from a very elemental level, from a very raw energy level, from a physical point of view, knowing how to eat, knowing how to hydrate, knowing how to breathe, knowing how to rest, then automatically you can see that we have a ripple effect emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Let me know if this makes sense. Let me know which part of this, if you have to do an energy audit, in which area of your life are you lacking here, and how can we help you? Don't forget to comment on this video. If you understand what I'm saying, I need you to say that I'm mentally focused, I'm spiritually aligned, I'm emotionally connected, or physically energized. Make sure that you write that in the comment section, and I will respond with a heart sign to show you that I'm with you. God bless. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do the right thing. See you in the inside.